Today I fucked up by asking a friend why one hand was moisturized. Title kinda says it all, but let me get into the story. Too long didn't read. At bottom, I was at a party with a couple of friends, not a big party, maybe like 10 people, and we were all COVID negative. Shook my friend's, let's call him Johnny, hand, and Johnny's hand was really soft. I was like, damn, how is his hand so soft? So me, being the intrigued friend, grabbed his other hand, which was hard. I was like, bruh, do you only moisturize one hand? Keep in mind, all 10 people were listening, because we were all right next to each other. I ended up saying never mind, I redact that question. Everyone burst out laughing their asses off, and so did Johnny. It was funny, but I fucked up real bad because I embarrassed him in front of all of our friends. Yesterday night, I learned something new about Johnny. TL, doctor, I asked my friend why one of his hands was moisturized, and then realized why. He also then realized that I realized. Edit, I just realized the awards, so thank you guys so much. There's a chance he wasn't aware of the discrepancy, in which case you did him a favor, smiley face. Johnny's in for a real treat when he finally switch hits. Reminds me of the time I walked into my roommate's room and asked why there was a perfectly good cucumber in her trash can. I redacted my question too. If you think his hand is soft, just wait until you feel his dick. That is some commendable dedication to masturbation right there by Johnny. Today I fucked up by pretending to be a demon to scare the wifey and ended up being investigated by the police. Keeping up with the tradition, this didn't happen today, although I did try to post that day and was too disoriented to do so. Last weekend, I was hanging out with the wifey and we were drinking. It was around 3 to 4 AM when we got really drunk and we were playing music, dancing and joking around in one of our now traditional 2-person COVID weekend parties. After a while, we were getting tired and she went to the bedroom while I went to the bathroom. Came out and saw that the bedroom was dark, and that's when I decided to do one of the silliest things a grown-ass man can do and pretend to be what she calls a scary man, and yeah. Unfortunately it's not my first time. A little background about me that may explain my weird behavior but probably still won't, is that there's a running joke among my friends where I pretend to be an amazing, aspiring actor. It has no basis whatsoever in truth. I'm a software developer and have never done acting of any kind, but basically I'll pretend to be acting at random times and take it very seriously, act horribly, then ask my audience how I did and sprinkle in made-up technical terms, claiming to be method acting. I know it's not that funny, it's just a weird inside joke that I tend to take too far because I get a little too dedicated to the joke. Back to the story, I decided to do our scary man routine where I usually pretend to be a creepy stalker long enough for her to be absurdly yet genuinely scared. Well, that night I was drunk and decided to enhance my performance a bit and pretend to be a demon. I was relentless with my performance this time around. I must have spent a good 40 to 50 minutes getting slowly closer and closer to our bed where she was, hid in the closet and creepily peeked out from there for a long time, stayed silent and didn't move for 5 to 10 minutes to keep her on edge and made demonic sounds whenever I suddenly moved. This culminated with me finally attacking the bed by crawling around and getting under it, staying silent for a while to build up anticipation, then making demonic noises again and jumping on the bed. She was screaming but also laughing because, well, it's absurd. And I'm not really a demon, or am I? After that, I went out of character to joke about having her evaluate my performance and basically continued my aspiring actor running joke, except whenever she triggered me by saying I did well as a demon or something along those lines. My drunk ass was so obsessive that I couldn't stop myself from pretending to be possessed by the demon again and hissing the most demonic mix of random foreign language words I could think of and would start shaking and grabbing the bed sheets, and then pretend to have come out of it and feel better now. That went on until we started hearing loud knocking on our door. The walls are incredibly thin and we were drunk, so we weren't really sure it was for us. I temporarily live in until the apartment tilde remodeled house split into 4 Airbnb units, so I honestly never know if I have neighbors or not. That night, it turns out I did. I know because we heard them talk about us too. The police, remember paper thin walls? That's when we realized they called the police on us. The knocking got more and more violent and the wifey decided to go down and open the door, but they stormed into our place right as she was going downstairs. We realized later that the landlord must have given the police officers the code to enter our unit. I have never had the police storm in and it was very surreal, especially that I was pretty drunk. That being said, I still was confused by the very violent response and attitude of the officers. This must be a noise complaint after all. I'll be the first to admit that we weren't being the quietest neighbors that night. The two police officers come upstairs, and separate us into two rooms. One officer takes me into the bedroom, asks for my ID, then asks what we've been doing tonight. I can tell from his tone that he was treating this very seriously, and I was confused by the dead serious tone even for the police, but thought it must be because we're in COVID lockdown. That is until he starts questioning me about where I know the wifey from. Well, she's not my wife on paper, but I always refer to her as wifey. Remember taking things too far? Then he started asking me whether we've had drinks and I said yes, and he said, so did you end up arguing? And that's when even my drunk stupid mind realized I'm being investigated for domestic violence. Now, domestic violence is a very serious crime, one that carries up to 10 years in prison, and in case you assumed I'm American, you weren't that far off. I live in Toronto, and fortunately we take domestic violence very seriously. Being accused is terrifying, but the wifey can't really say anything incriminating because we never argued and we were purely having fun. She also happened to not have any visible bruises recently despite randomly bruising easily. So I should just chill, right? Well, I actually was pretty chill, for a few moments, until the officer asked me to explain the blood on my shirt, and that is when even in my drunk brain his tone and seriousness suddenly all made sense. Before he asked about the blood, I was going to try to explain to the officer that the wifey and I were just fooling around. That any screams, demonic or wifeys, were just as being silly adults. That even if my name and background are stereotyped as being a typical wife beater, that I would never hurt wifey and just wanted to enjoy my Saturday night. Except now, I have blood on my shirt, on my face, and it just hit me that I had blood all over my bed behind me right there for the officer to see. In my eyes, I quickly went from being treated like just a main suspect to about to be cuffed and escorted to the police station. This also explained the reason why he was collecting evidence on his body cam by having the suspect, i.e., me, talk as much as possible to possibly incriminate himself, and also why the officer was walking around the crime scene, i.e., my place, in order to record any evidence he found. And well, I stupidly had no clue because I didn't put two and two together until the blood on my shirt was mentioned. I was to be charged right there and then, no matter what the wifey said about our shenanigans. To make things worse, I'm an immigrant who is also just 2 months away from becoming a permanent resident, but until then, any crime will have me deported. All I was thinking about was how I'm minutes away from being shoved into their police cruiser sitting right outside, and 2 to 3 months away from my life being practically over. I was thinking, how do they fly deported criminals? Will my family back home see it? How do I even explain this to anyone? Realizing that my trial had to be around the corner and more evidence couldn't hurt, I frantically begged the officer to look and film my nose on his body cam. What I didn't mention is that just before the police came into the building, my so-called method acting joke and obsession made me clench so hard onto the sheets and hold my breath so hard and hiss nonsense so hard that when combined with the steaming hot room and my tendency to have nosebleeds for no fucking reason ever since I was born, all of that happened to trigger a really bad nosebleed, right after I was in bed with the wifey, making me bleed all over the bed and all the way to the bathroom and on my shirt too. And in a crazy coincidence which truly sounds like poorly written fiction, it was right before the police stormed in to investigate me as a domestic violence perpetrator. Miraculously, the officer completely changed his attitude once I freaked the fuck out and showed him the fresh blood up my nostrils, and I begged him to film tissues I used to stop my nosebleed on his body cam. The police officers discussed it among themselves, mentioned the wifey had no signs of injuries and both of our stories match, thin walls, so I heard this pre-trial. They thankfully decided I didn't didn't commit any heinous acts based on the evidence they had. That evidence being limited to how I acted during the investigation and the blood I had everywhere. Yes, I'm glad they don't know I'm considered to be an amazing actor. Smile. Too long didn't read. I pretended to be a demon who was stalking my girl, got too carried away, made a lot of noise, made her scream, then bled everywhere and had to explain that to cops investigating me for domestic violence. Edit, I'm still scared probably for no reason, but here's some evidence. Edit 2, I know I seem like the biggest asshole here and I made a lot of mistakes that night, but just to clarify some things, we really weren't blasting music and I exaggerated how loud we were for comedic effect. I live in a house split into 4 units that are often completely vacant, and the sound travels through the vents. There's no way anyone other than possible downstairs neighbors could hear us, and I really wasn't sure if I had a neighbor that night. I didn't hear anyone that day. We were just having fun on a weekend, and yes, being drunk I took it too far and that does make me an asshole, but I would have apologized profusely if the neighbor knocked on our door or texted the landlord. Request for a video performance of the demon to be uploaded to Reddit, please. Well, this was a roller coaster to read. I would have sobered up so quick when the police busted in. Lol, I wish I could see a video of this performance. I have pretty high tolerance, but I was 8 to 9 shots in. Lol, I definitely sobered up quite a bit when they came in, but was really confused and kinda not sure it's real. I don't know how to explain it. The blood thing definitely completely sobered me up, but the alcohol still made me have the dumbest thoughts and word things horribly. I've been thinking of hitting up Toronto police to see if I can get the evidence. Lol. I've never hated the word wifey more. It's like he intentionally said it as many times as possible. Lol. FYI, all they were considering was charging you with assault, and that doesn't make you a criminal. You would have to be convicted before that would happen anyway. Enjoy your weekend safely up, but try to not be inconsiderate to your neighbors, whether you know you have any or not. FYI, all they were considering was charging you with assault, and that doesn't make you a criminal. You would have to be convicted before that would happen anyway. That's not a risk you really want to brush up against regardless. 50 minutes slow walk from bathroom to bedroom. Standing still in closet and peeking for almost 10 minutes, and all that while fully drunk and at 5 AM. Now that is called true dedication. Today I fucked up by successfully convincing my 7-year-old I had been taken over by an alien. Happened last night and over the last few weeks. My 7-year-old doesn't like to sleep alone and I often end up laying in his bed at bedtime. For the last few weeks I've enjoyed randomly saying that I was an alien who had taken over mom's body, and my real name was Zolnax. He would laugh and say, "No, you're mom." It would last a few minutes, then I'd say I was mom again and move on. Apparently I was too successful. Last night I switched into Zolnax and he got really upset. I laughed and said I was just kidding, it had all been just a joke. He said that is exactly what an alien would say. I said he could test me, ask me something only mom would know, but he reminded me that last week Zolnax said that when they were in mom, they got all of mom's memories, so this wouldn't work. I was just getting him to believe, and said seriously, "I'm just joking," when, as a genius, I said in a spooky voice, "Or am I?" That was it. I was unable to convince him after that I wasn't an alien. After a few minutes of tears that escalated to hysterics, I had to bring Dad in and have him take over. Dad had to Google getting rid of an alien, do a little dance and a chant, and promise him that Zolnax could not come back now. I'm on a ban from bedtime stories and probably won't be invited into bedtime for a while. Too long didn't read. I was too good at pretending to be taken over by an alien, and scared the sh out of my 7-year-old. Edit, thank you for the messages letting me know I'm a shitty parent. I promise you, I'm not. I figured the messages would come and posted anyway. I'll survive.